Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we are talking about big tech, government, and online surveillance because I believe big tech wants to actually track exactly who is doing what and who is creating what online. We are entering a new era of tech surveillance that really turns us up to 11. And this is crazy. Now, this is actually not coming from a third-party news source. This is coming from Microsoft's blog post directly from Microsoft.com. Now, this post is entitled, Technology and Media Entities Join Forces to Create Standards Groups Aimed at Building Trust in Online Content. The subtitle is, Adobe, ARM, BBC, Intel, Microsoft, and Truepic form coalition to develop end-to-end open standard for tracing the origin and evolution of digital content. Now, this group is basically, and they're calling themselves influential technology and media companies, which makes sense. They've partnered to form what is known as the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity, or the C2PA. Now, this has been established to address the, and I quote, prevalence of disinformation, misinformation, and online content fraud through developing technical standards for certifying the source and history or provenance of media content. Now, its founding members, as I mentioned, and I quote, seek to establish a standardized provenance solution with the goal of combating misleading content. And I'm going to read basically a long quote here because they just really lay out exactly what they're planning to do. And I quote, C2PA member organizations will work together to develop content provenance specifications for common asset types and formats to enable publishers, creators, and consumers to trace the origin and evolution of a piece of media, including images, videos, audios, and documents. These technical specifications will include defining what information is associated with each type of asset, how that information is presented and stored, and how evidence of tampering can be identified. Now, the C2PA, or I continue with this quote, the C2PA's open standard will give platforms a method to preserve and read provenance-based digital content. Because an open standard can be adopted by any online platform, it is critical to scaling trust across the internet. In addition to the inclusion of varied media types at scale, C2PA is driving an end-to-end provenance experience from the capturing device to the information consumer. Collaboration with chip makers, news organizations, and software and platform companies is critical to facilitate a comprehensive provenance standard and drive broad adoption across the content ecosystem. And the last quote I'm going to say here for this is simply this, and I quote, designing standards and technologies that can certify the source and provenance of online content is an important step forward in addressing rising concerns with the manipulation and manufacture of news and information. And I agree that basically understanding misinformation and disinformation is beyond important. We have seen a massive rash of that in the last couple of years and an absolute explosion during 2020, especially centered around the US election here in the United States, but also elsewhere around the globe. The United States is not unique in that by any stretch. But the way I'm looking at this is simply a massive and trackable digital rights or DRM, digital rights management or DRM system. So let's say you create a meme. Whatever that meme is, could be about your cat, I don't care. Your meme could be tagged essentially with what I'm going to be guessing is a cryptographic signature because it's including hardware companies as well. You're going to be tagged with a cryptographic signature that is then linked to your computer, the device you use, possibly an operating system and other characteristics that may actually link back to your real name. If you're using Microsoft Windows, expect that anything you're creating might be tagged in this manner. In this way, you are going to lose anonymity. Now, I could also see this apply to posting things online. So, for example, your Facebook or your Twitter or your Google or your Microsoft account, assuming all of those companies get on board with this, could basically tag you and track you as you are posting things. So, if you come up with, let's say, a fake identity, online, let's say on Twitter, and you call yourself, I don't know, Carlos Danger or something like that, instead of your real name, this cryptographic tagging would actually know you're not Carlos Danger, and in fact, it would know who you are. Now, I can understand this logic in attempting to track things like disinformation from a foreign government. We saw that. I've done multiple videos, written articles on that. You can go read all of that yourself from the 2016 election and beyond. But do we really need this for cat memes? I mean, where's the line here? And what I'm not really reading from this, from what I've seen here, is the privacy and free speech aspects of this. I posted a video the other day on basically killing misinformation regarding the coronavirus vaccine, and how basically a lot of these organizations are obviously killing it. The Facebooks, the Twitters of the world. But what we're potentially killing could be considered overzealous, in the sense that sometimes there are actual scientific debates going on in terms of the efficacy of something, not vaccines in general, but let's say one thing or the other. We may be actually killing that debate, or we might be accidentally labeling it misinformation. That then brings in the other issue of reputation scores. So what if, for whatever reason, let's say I am not intentionally sowing disinformation, but I am looking at this misinformation, it is being flagged as misinformation, and we've seen that people that really believe in misinformation, whatever that is, see those flags from Facebook and think that, oh, well, it's Facebook trying to censor me, as opposed to actually reading into it. I don't think it's really having as much of an impact as people think it is, although I'm sure studies will be coming soon that hopefully basically will change my mind on that. But what happens if I believe something? What happens if, I don't know, I believe the earth is flat, and I'm sharing flat earth articles left and right? Am I now getting a secret reputation score from Microsoft, Adobe, et cetera, basically saying that I'm a broker or I'm a merchant of misinformation or disinformation, when I'm simply believe that it's not? I mean, these are things I think we have to answer. I can understand this, again, when it comes to the cyber warfare side, cyber influence side, cyber operation side. When one nation state is attempting to sow distrust and discord in another, it's another thing when people get on board, see that, understand that the origin is that, and simply say, I don't believe Microsoft. Microsoft is lying. They're part of the cabal, or whatever it is. So this is going to be really interesting to see. My concern is that the regular citizens that aren't typically posting anything except, let's say, post on what I had for dinner today, or posting cat memes. And, if you follow me regularly on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, you also know that I post daily pictures that are just humorous, not really meant to make any kind of statement beyond just give everybody a laugh every day. What does that do to my reputation score once Microsoft starts tracking that, because they own LinkedIn? So I'm curious to know where this goes. I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. I think this has the real potential to have some serious surveillance aspects that I'm not really hearing about privacy and free speech ramifications from this blog post. And so I'm wondering how they're going to address that. I'm wondering how that is essentially going to be there. But if that's the case, we're all going to be surveilled. We're all probably going to have some kind of scoring in some kind of artificial intelligence or relational database that shows where we are on that scale in terms of what we share and how we share it. And is that going to turn people off? Are we seeing basically then a bifurcation of those that want to stay with those platforms that will, and those that will go somewhere else, to platforms that intentionally have not adopted these standards? I mean, these are things that we have to consider. These are things that are going to happen, if this continues. But this is a really important conversation we need to have. And so that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, everyone.